Welcome to this edition of the Commissioner's Report, where we'll be hearing from Commission Chair Melony Bell and from Commissioner George Lindsey. Today's program features social programs that these commissioners are passionate about because of the profound positive changes that they can bring to individuals and to our community as a whole. First up is Commission Chair Melony Bell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good morning to you.
Thank you. You have a big heart and you're a good mom. You have brought these important elements to your role as a county commissioner and as an advocate for people. One of your recent heart-led causes is supporting Circle of Friends in Lake Wales, a program that supports and empowers young adults with physical and/or mental disabilities. How did you become aware of Circle of Friends?
Well, it's a strange story, but I was out and about in the county doing some tours of different social programs, and came across a lady named Myrtis Kelly that was the founder of Circle of Friends. And so she asked me to come by and check out her program and just see, what it was. So I did. I took the time and went over to Lake Wales, and the minute I walked through the door, my heart was touched because these children, and I call them children, they're adults. They're adults probably of age 18 to 60 years old. But these are the forgotten population, I say, that when a mother or father has a child with this disability, when they age out of school at 22, I understand, what do they do with their children when they have to go to work?
Yes, ma'am.
And so there was a young lady there, the name of Janie, that attended the school, and she rode the school bus with my oldest daughter, actually, Ashley, early back 20 years ago, rode the school bus, and she went to a special school in Bartow, and my daughter also attended Bartow Elementary Academy, a magnet school, and so we got to know the family, and so realized, what does a parent do with a child that they no longer can care for during the day? They have to have some type of supervision. So I went over and visited the daycare center, and it's Circle of Friends, and it's a Christian-based organization that this lady, Myrtis Kelly, wonderful lady.
Tell us about
she's
Ms.
awesome.
Kelly. Okay.
She had a daughter with mental disabilities, and the daughter, she had raised her up to 20 years old, and the daughter passed away. Oh, and she said, and she wasn't even supposed to live past, I think, 10 years old, but she ended up living to 20 years old. And after she lost her daughter, she said, God, what can I do to give back to my community in her name? So she started this daycare center. And she started out with just a few kids. She talked church into giving her a room to keep these kids. And so now she's up to, I think she said she has 30 kids that that goes to the daycare during the day. Now, she does charge $20 a day. She has, I think, 4 or 5 staff members on there. And some of these parents can't afford 5 days a week. So what they do is, in Janie's situation, she goes 3 days a week, but the other 2 days, they have found a job for her. She works at a local beauty shop and sweeps up hair and does little things and gets tips. And so those are the 2 days that she's under supervision with others. But what touched my heart mostly was going to the center and finding out that these kids are learning life skills, trying to be productive citizens. Not that they will be 100%, but there's a guy there, Reggie, that has a wagon, and they put crackers and snacks, and during fall they put pumpkins on his wagon, and him and 3 other adult people go out and sell these items, and they learn how to make change, they learn how to communicate, to try to be productive citizens. And so, not that they're 100%, but they're given a reason to live. And I think that's what's touched my heart with them. And it's a great outreach. Like I said, it's a forgotten population, and as citizens, we should support those.
Oh, very good. And, of course, we know that young people are our future.
Absolutely.
You're also an advocate for the mission of Youth and Family Alternatives and it's George Harris Youth Shelter in Bartow. You knew George Harris and what a special community and business leader he was for so many folks. What led you to serve the runaway shelter for sometimes unwanted teenagers?
It's a sad situation there, and that's what tugged at my heartstrings, I guess I could say. But George Harris was a philanthropist in this community and cared about people, just not the rich. He cared for everybody, and George was a lot of people's friends, and I can say he was certainly my true friend and a mentor to me. But I had been invited to serve on an advisory board to get some information about the George Harris Center, and I say that's the best kept secret. That shouldn't be a secret in Polk County, because we do have this center there that takes in children, not just directed by the court, but runaways, children that are abused, that needs a safe place, and this is a safe place. And when I went to hear the presentation, there was a young man there that lived in North Lakeland out on Duff Road, and he came home from school. His father was drugged up on methamphetamines. He beat the mother, was beating his siblings that had turned on him, and he got on his bicycle and had seen a sign somewhere that there was a George Harris Center, and it was in Bartow, and he knew it was a safe place. So he got on his bicycle off of Duff Road in Lakeland.
Way up on the north side.
Way up on the north side, and rode his bicycle to Bartow to get away from a dad that was beating him. So I got involved. Like I said, it tugged at my heartstrings, got involved, and that was my number one priority, is to get the word out that the George Harris Center was there and that the citizens of Polk County needed to support it. Not just supporting it financially, but supporting it with our time. And started a program there called Cook for Kids.
Yes, great.
And got different organizations, a cricket club, church organizations would go in and start cooking one night a month to go in and help out the cooks. And you know, DG, you and I take things for granted. I know you've been to many parties and you've had hors d'oeuvres and you've seen a meatball or you've seen a shrimp cocktail, but these kids had never seen that.
It's amazing.
We gave them a Christmas party along with Spath Jewelers. Tina and Jean have the biggest heart of ever, and we gave a Christmas party to these kids and brought in Santa Claus, and these children had never seen foods like that. They were amazed. They didn't know how to pick up a piece of meatball or anything else with a toothpick. They didn't know that because they had been served cafeteria food their whole life, or if they were at home, they in and out of foster homes, they were served whatever was put on the plate. And then also we started birthday parties there. Very special kids there. These kids are in and out of foster homes. So if you think about it, when you're taken in and out of a home, your birthday comes around, where you're set in this next home, they didn't know it was your birthday coming up. They didn't prepare. We had given a young girl a birthday party there, 13 years old, and she had never blown out a birthday candle in her life.
And my daughter, Jamie, she celebrates her birthday for a week. And here's a young lady had never had an opportunity.
Never. And so we gave her 2 hours of joy in her life. And she wanted a cross pennant. I had always wanted a cross necklace, and Spath Jewelers gave that to her, and she literally laid on the floor and cried.
Oh, how sweet is that?
And can you imagine your daughter, Jamie, or our daughters? Like you said, they celebrate for weeks on. And but so we've been able to do these birthday parties for these children, and yes, are we filling their life dreams? Absolutely. But what are we doing to our life?
You know, people have stepped up in the community to help the George Harris Youth Shelter, including the 5K run, the Carolina Classic at Bach Tower. Over the past several years, you've grown very close to Carol Barnett and to the great works of Publix Supermarkets Charities. You introduced Mrs. Barnett to the George Harris Youth Shelter, and that paid big dividends for the nonprofit organization. Can you tell us about that rewarding story?
Yeah, that was an exciting day. I had told Carol and Barney about the shelter. They had given a lot through Publix Charities, but never had taken a visit there. So I got Carol to come and meet the children and see, you know, what the outreach was there. And And there was a mortgage that needed to be paid off of $100,000. And so when she came, she brought her Publix executives with her also and presented a check that paid off that mortgage of $100,000.
What a great story.
So now, instead of them having to worry about paying that mortgage off, they can identify other projects in the shelter. We're working on furniture right now. The kids need just a living room set of furniture, and that's very expensive because we can't put regular sofa in there. It has to be industrial grade because of the clientele that's in and out of there. But there's some sad stories in there. We've tried, we would encourage people to get involved. There's room on advisory councils there. There's room to come cook for kids. There's Christmas coming up, the holidays. Things that we take for granted, those children never see.
Oh, we appreciate you being such an advocate, and a good friend of the Publix family is Wogie Badcock, and he has donated over the years washers and dryers to George Harris. So another great philanthropist in our community. Let's switch directions a bit, Commissioner Bell, and discuss the importance of community vision in the master planning process for our cities throughout Polk County, particularly the smaller ones. Last year, Bartow completed an economic and community development study. Lake Alfred recently adopted a master plan for its downtown development, and Mulberry is planning a visioning exercise in the next several months. You recently attended a vision session coordinated by the Central Florida Regional Planning Council in Fort Meade. How did that go?
Oh, it went great. And to give you a little background on how this all came about, our downtown is dying. There's the phosphate industry is moving south, so there's a concern of the small city. So the chamber director, Priscilla Perry, and I met with the Central Florida Planning Council, Pat Steed and Colleen Burton, and said, how can we make a change down there? The Bible says without a vision we all will perish, and so I think it's very important for us to have a vision, and there has not been one set forth there. So there are some grants out there that we can obtain through the National Endowment of Arts. I mean, there's so much out there for towns that are dying. So we felt it was very important to get the citizens together to get their vision. What do they want to see their city look like 20, 30 years from now? So we obtained a $15,000 grant for the city to do this study, to bring everyone together. And this was done through the city manager's office. And it was a wonderful, productive meeting the other night. It surprised me of the common ground that everyone had. And, of course, they need commercial. But our downtown, we wanted a safe haven also, and for families to be able to go down, shop, but have family where they would be able to play and community together. So I understand Mulberry's working on theirs. We have a meeting with them coming up, and we have 17 municipalities here in this county, 3 of which are large cities. The rest are very small towns, and it's very important for a county commissioner to identify that and to make sure that there are visions set forth so that we can help them as commissioners to get behind them and make sure that their plans happen.
And they share. Recently I understand that Priscilla Perry, the chamber chief, and April Brown, the planning director for Fort Meade, actually visited with Mulberry and shared their thoughts of their community with their smaller cousin, if you will, Mulberry. So it's great that our communities are sharing with each other.
Very important that we all share. And as you know, that was my platform when I ran, that we all would come together as one Polk. And I'm excited that a lot of this has happened. Like I said, a lot of common ground between all of us. But each city, I think, is very important to set their self aside of what they can be different. What would draw someone there, visitors, tourism, into their city. And so we all need visions, but it needs to be separate visions, but yet there needs to be a common ground also.
Perfect. Commissioner Bell, we appreciate you sharing your professional and personal thoughts with us during this segment of the Commissioner's Report. Stay tuned, please, as we will now hear from Commissioner George Lindsey on a cause close to his heart. Welcome back to this edition of the Commissioner's Report, where we are now joined by Commissioner George Lindsey. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Jim. Thank you.
Yes, sir. During the first segment of today's program, we heard from your colleague, Commissioner Melony Bell. She talked about community development causes that are close to her heart. During your campaign for County Commissioner, you became very interested in a special cause and in a special segment of our society. Can you please tell us about your advocacy, which began a year ago?
Jim, thank you for that platform. About a year ago this time, there was an unfortunate episode in our community where a very young lady gave birth to a full-term baby boy. And that young lady had hidden the pregnancy throughout her term and gave birth to that child in the bathroom of her mother's home. That's such a horrible situation. Yes. And at that moment, she had the choice to make between disappointing her parents. These are her words that were quoted in the paper. Her choice was to disappoint her parents with this birth of this child or to take the life of the child. Unfortunately, she took the course to take the child's life. That story was featured in the paper, and it just touched my heart, and it made me to think that the community as a whole let this young lady down. Her friends, her family, her church, her school, her coach, her teammates, anyone who was in her life did not let her know that there is help available for young ladies and women who find themselves in this unplanned crisis pregnancy. So it occurred to me, I know there's help out there. How do we get this information to the people most affected? So, well, the campaign took a lot of my time, but it was still a haunting task in the back of my mind throughout the process. And after the election, I began to pull the pieces together, and I knew there were agencies out there. So I made the first contact with a woman's choice agency, a private agency. And my mission was to identify all of these various sources, put some kind of umbrella over all of them in order to disseminate the information and availability. Well, my first contact led me to a second, to a third, to a fourth, to a fifth, and those concentric circles, like dropping the pebble in the lake, began to grow. And after a few months, it assembled quite a group of people. So we invited them all together to share the concept, share the thought, share the objective. And I was shocked and surprised, and pleasantly so, that we had, I think, 16 or 18 ladies show up representing 6 or 7 different agencies. And it was really heartwarming to see them come together with just my brief, humble, feeble efforts to do so.
And from that meeting came the genesis for what is called the Polk Safe Haven Coalition and their formation. What is the mission?
Well, the mission of the Safe Haven Coalition is to create a resource guide that lists all these agencies, and public, private, and quasi-public, private, that provides some level of service in this regard. Also to make countywide awareness that these services are available, and also to have collaboration between all of these agencies. What continued my interest in this thing, and I asked the county attorney and I asked the county manager, can I use my platform as a county commissioner to advance this cause? If the answer was no, then that's fine. I would pursue it on my own time. If the answer was yes, then I would, with discretion, use that platform. Well, considering that Safe Haven for Babies is a statutorily created entity for the very purpose of accepting newborns. And the Safe Haven statute provides that if a newborn is brought to a fire station, a manned fire station, or an emergency room, no questions asked, the young lady can leave the child there and it will be taken care of properly. You may recall this was created about 12 or 15 years ago when the epidemic statewide and countrywide was finding young babies and fetus in in dumpsters and garbage cans on the side of the road. It's just a horrible situation.
Terrible.
And so with the help of some folks in South Florida, there was a statute adopted providing that please don't do that. Take the child to a licensed facility, emergency room or fire station. I was not aware of Safe Haven even existed, and I was prepared to create an umbrella organization to bring all these groups together. But when I found there was a Safe Haven existing, but 24/7 hotline with manned counselors on the line and providing that service, it didn't seem appropriate to recreate it, but take advantage of what it was.
Is this process anonymous?
Yes, if the young lady or the woman chooses to take her child to a Safe Haven place, a fire station or emergency room, yes, it is anonymous, and all they do is just leave the child there. If they're willing to leave some health information about the biological parents that'll help that child down the road, that would be fine, but that's not necessary.
Does the program deal with education in the schools or the churches about education about pregnancy and trying to maybe curtail unwanted pregnancies before they begin?
Absolutely, Jim, and that's the beauty of this program. It's not just as Safe Haven was founded to take the child to the fire station. We want to be involved as soon as that young lady learns that she's pregnant. And that is exactly what all of these groups do in various stages. So yes, there's prenatal care, there's ultrasounds, there's all the things that the young lady will need to have a healthy, viable birth, and then to choose, what she wants to do upon when the baby arrives. So the full services are available. And now one of our major partners in this coalition that we've loosely pulled together is the Polk County School Board. And they are huge supporters, and I attribute that to Hunt Berryman, who's a member of the school board, who's bought into the program, and the staff is very supportive of it. And that's the beauty of this thing. When we first brought this group together, many of them didn't know the others existed. I didn't know you did what you did. I didn't know you were here. Some of them certainly knew each other in that universe providing care, but there were a lot of surprises. And we do involve the churches. We do involve all the various public and private agencies. Polk County Health Department is a big participant. So the whole idea is, as I said earlier, is to create the resource guide that's in one place. You can find out all the services that are available, which has heretofore not been the place. Make public awareness, and then encourage our coalition to exchange information, and this is going remarkably well.
And Commissioner Lindsey, how have you changed as an individual since you've become a proponent for the Safe Haven program?
I've become much more aware of the magnitude of the problem in Polk County. I'm also pleased that there are agencies, public and private, out there to provide the support. And if we can help disseminate that information, it's that much better. I got interrupted myself when I mentioned my conversation with the county attorney and the county manager, and their point was, yes, I can use the platform because it is tied to fire services. And Polk County has a huge fire service presence. 42 stations, 600 personnel, blanket the community, and they are statutorily brought into this obligation. So by virtue of that connection, we can use the platform of the commissioner to advance this public awareness.
And what does the future hold for this life-saving program?
Well, I'm glad you used the word life-saving, because I truly believe that's exactly what's going to happen. I learned recently that the 197th child was recently left at a fire station in another part of the state. So there in itself shows the value of the program on a statewide basis. But this is the first time in the state of Florida that all of the service agencies are brought together in one room, one mission, one common objective, and that is probably my proudest moment, that we will be among the first. And I'd like to share this with my colleagues with Florida Association of Counties as to how we can really, by not adding any more cost, but just adding more public awareness that there is help when someone finds himself in this situation.
Excellent. And you had touched on our wonderful fire services team throughout Polk County. Recently saw a story in the press on our fire safety guys, our rescue guys, riding bicycles as a way to augment their services, particularly like at the Carillon, the 5K race out at Bach Tower, or maybe at a rock concert or other community events. What can you tell us about this new program?
That is an exciting program, and the young men and women that are part of this program are to be commended. Their whole mission and their whole purpose is to serve the people of Polk County, and they do a marvelous job. This is one more tool, and I commend the County Manager, Jim Freeman, and Chief Cash for having the foresight to add this to the arsenal of services they provide to Polk County. We used, I think Mayfair was listed as an example. And all of us have attended Mayfair, and it is, elbow to elbow on those warm Saturday and Sunday mornings, and the opportunity to provide immediate services is great because the crowds just impede the bulky ambulance actually getting to the scene. If these folks can get there just a few minutes early, the results can be life-saving.
Let's shift gears a little bit to our budget process, and you and your colleagues are kind of wrapping up the, what is it, like a $1.4 billion budget. What are some of the highlights of this process?
Well, this is my first budget session.
Yes, sir.
And I'm impressed by the tenacity and the thoroughness and that the staff goes through. Mr. Freeman and his team really give the commissioners the tools to make informed decisions. The good news is the slide in revenues has stopped. I think from 2007 until last year, the total budget had decreased by $92 million on an annual basis, and that's just huge numbers. Yet the staff has done a commendable job of making ends meet during that time. We've seen a slight uptick this year with about a little over $3 million increase in revenue, so the first flattening of our decline. Those signs are good. We've been able to maintain some capital improvements, cautious not to spend them where they create more operating and maintenance expense. So that's always a challenge, and we've got some tough decisions to make. The needs will always exceed the revenues, and so we have to make choices and set priorities and look at the big picture. But when you look at the big picture, there's not a lot of discretion. When Sheriff Judd has to open a new wing to house inmates, you have to feed them, you have to house them, you have to guard them, you have to do all those things. When the fire services got more calls, you have to do what it takes. While we can often have the objective of running government more like a business, that is a worthy goal, but it can't happen. Businesses can scale back. Government can scale back only so far. Basic services still have to be provided. And I'm pleased with my colleagues on the commission. We've all addressed this in a very professional manner and given it studious consideration. We don't always agree, but we always agree on moving things forward, and the consensus will be better for the community.
And you had mentioned the sheriff. The constitutional officers, their programs are part of the county budget. Isn't that right?
Yes, yes, it is. In fact, a little known fact is the sheriff's budget exceeds all ad valorem revenue that comes to the county, just his budget alone. While there are certain formulas as to how much state assistance the courthouse gets for the state's attorney's office and the public defender, all of those other costs are local costs that have to come from local revenues and a variety of sources. And it's a daunting task.
Yes, sir, it sure is. And thank you, Commissioner Lindsey, for being a strong advocate for our most precious resource, our babies and our moms. We also thank you for sharing your convictions and part of your heart with us today. It's been most enlightening. This is Jim DeGennaro thanking you for joining us for this segment of the Commissioner's Report, and we look forward to seeing you again next month when we'll be interviewing 2 more commissioners who serve our very diverse county of 615,000 persons. Until then, please take care and enjoy this beautiful community we call home.